Hello, everyone. Let me know if you are joining live on Facebook. You are welcome to join the Zoom session if you want me to kind of have an eye on your form and stuff, just kind of see how you're doing things and give feedback. But otherwise, you can just follow along on Facebook. Yay, this is going to be so fun. It's going to be a bit experimental, and every now and then we might do one of these sessions, either a movement session or, other things that you guys want to try out. So let's see how it goes. If you are joining live on Facebook, say hi. I can't see who's joining and any video or anything like that. So it's just nice to know who's joining. Just say hi. Let me know how you guys are feeling today, body-wise, emotion-wise, mental, existential. How's everything going? I'm hoping you guys will be able to see everything that I'm doing. You're welcome to, in the Zoom call or on Facebook, just let me know if you can't see me, and I will every now and then just kind of check the comments to see if anyone needs help or something isn't clear or my sound is gone or something like that, and you can just let me know. So I'll just wait 1 or 2 minutes just in case anyone still wants to join live. This is the first time I'm doing a live Pilates class with these earphones, so I'm hoping that they stay put. If you see one flying, don't be alarmed. I say that, but it went flying when I was talking really excitedly about something, so it most likely will happen today. Okay. There's also just a little bit of a delay, just so you guys know that, from the Zoom to the Facebook session. So just being aware of that. Yeah, as you guys are joining, just let me know. Say hi. Let me know who's joining. Okay, so I'm just going to introduce the class a little bit first. So as I said on the group, it's going to be appropriate for any kind of level, or even just not necessarily your level of capability, but even just what you're feeling up to on the specific day that you're doing this. So you get to decide on that. I will at some stages give a few options, how you can adapt something in a certain way to either have less of an effort or more of an effort or whatever it is. But I want you to also think about, you can also control how much effort you are extending or using in this class, just from a pure internal effort level. So if you think about if I raise my arm up, I can do that with fairly minimal effort. I can also do it with kind of medium, as if I'm carrying a light little weight. And then I can also do that with this internal idea of I'm carrying a really heavy weight, or I'm pressing against a really heavy resistance in order to get it up. And those different things will produce different amounts of effort in my body. So you can also control it that way, adding more effort when you need to. At some points, if you feel coming off the gas pedal a little bit and just going a little bit lighter, you're welcome to. If you want to go the whole session quite strong and hard, you can go for it. If you want to do it quite gently, you can do this. It is also a class that will be in the group forever, so you can always access it again at different times and do it at different levels of effort each time. So I will be kind of moving my screen just to make sure that you can see me at each part of the class, like when I'm standing versus when I'm on the ground. But like I say, just give me feedback if you can't see something clearly. I've tried to wear like a little bit like pinkish color on my as pants. Don't know what word I was trying to look for there. So that you can kind of see it against the contrast of this mat, and then the black top against the wall. But yeah, just let me know, and we can always adjust it as we go. So one of the things that I really want to be kind of a theme in the class today is, how does this relate to things like our stress levels, things like anxiety, things like trying to, you know, navigate prioritizing our health when we are being clinicians as well. So I think one of the parts is kind of like I was saying, you decide the effort level. If it's after a long day working, maybe you just want to do like a really chill session. Maybe if it's a day that you needing a bit more energy, you might do it at a little bit more energized level. But then also thinking of this idea of variability and range and options, right? If we are often in a state of, if we're often in a sympathetic state, we want to start activating the parasympathetic state more often. We want to be able to switch between the two. It's not that one is good and the other one is bad. We want to be able to shift between the two quite easily. And so we're kind of practicing that dance between the two, right? Like one being more kind of high effort, high heart rate. In terms of states, you can think of like anxiety, really trying hard, really like putting in effort, those kind of states, versus like a very chilled state. Sometimes when that goes too far in more kind of like a depressed or frozen state, can't get yourself to do anything. But in before it kind of gets to that extreme, more kind of a chilled level, parasympathetic nervous system is like kicking in, and we can be a little bit more like free flowing. We can relax a little bit, we can laugh, we can be joyful, we can play. So we want to be able to switch between these two as needed, right? We want to be able to activate that go when we need it, and we want to be able to activate the chill when we need it. And then thinking about recovery of like when we have done something that's a bit more intense and that it has required a bit more effort from us, how do we recover with things that are more gentle movements, things that will bring our heart rate down, whether that's breathing or just gentle movement. We're kind of looking the whole time for these options. We want to be able to have range. Same thing when we look at like range of motion in our body, right? We want our joints to be able to access all their different ranges of motion. These are all giving our body options, different capabilities. And another thing that we can think of when we think of movement is like we can actually access different emotional states through movement as well. So we think a lot about like thoughts leading to certain emotions, but we can also access it the other way around. So if you think of like talk therapy, for example, you're talking about how you think about something, your beliefs, all that kind of stuff. And we're seeing like, how does that influence your emotions? And then there are more what they call like somatic approaches, where they're approaching it through the body, right? Think about accessing a state of like flow in your movements. You are accessing a sense of play and joy and like experimentation. That has a very different emotional feeling, and it can bring about a very different emotional state than if you're doing something that is a very different kind of like high effort, strength work, really pushing, really trying. So you can also think of accessing your emotional state through movement. Similar thing as just going for a walk, right? It has a similar effect. So we can think about it as like giving us options emotion-wise, nervous system-wise, right? And that's what we're going to be kind of exploring a little bit today. So we're going to start with a breathing exercise. And this is again kind of showing you those two options. If you're joining live on Facebook, let me know, say hi. So we're accessing those different states with our breath as well, right? If you think about fast breathing, where you're focusing on the inhale, think of like, what's his name, Wim Hof, when you like the cold, what's it, cold therapy, it's not really cold therapy, but cold exposure. One of the ways that you kind of get yourself to that state where you're producing heat in your body and where you kind of psyched up psychologically, you're accessing that fast breath. So focusing on the inhale, breathing quite fast. If you focus on the exhale, your heart rate tends to lower. And you start to access more of that calming state. So even just with your breath, you can access these two states. And again, like I'm saying, one is not better than the other, right? We need our heart rates and we need our breathing to increase when we have increased physiological demand, right? Being out of breath or noticing an increase in our breathing is just a neutral thing, right? Our body is responding to what it needs physiologically. It's not a good thing or a bad thing. And then the same thing of like when we need to access that calm, that we can use the breath to do that. So we're going to do the first one first. So just thinking of like focusing on the inhale and making it quite short. If you want to do this sitting, that's usually the safest, because sometimes you can feel lightheaded. If you do, please stop immediately. So we're just going to do it a few times. We're not going to do the whole kind of protocol on that, but just notice how your body feels. So just doing, focusing on the inhale and doing it quite fast. So, and then just notice like how your body's feeling and how you can almost sometimes feel like that rush of blood, kind of like a flushing kind of feeling. And then notice how it feels when you extend the exhale. So breathing in and then making the exhale longer than the inhale. So let's say if you breathe in for 2 counts, then you're exhaling for 4 counts. And you'll notice everything doing the opposite. You're accessing a more calm state, and your heart rate will start to increase. And you can also measure it if you have something to measure that on. And then the one breath that we can use that is the most effective for accessing a very quick state of calm is the physiological sigh. So taking a breath in as far as you can, taking a sip of air at the top, and then breathing a really slow, long exhale. I sometimes like to add a little bit of like a shape of my body as well. That helps me just to like physiologically and movement-wise be accessing that space of like relaxed calm. So just seeing just with the breath how you can affect that. We're going to start with a few movements standing. I'm just going to put the camera upwards a little bit. Okay, awesome. So we're just going to start with a few movements, and part of what we are thinking about when we think of options. Sorry, I just want to check that my earphones are actually what is producing.
Right. Oh, it wasn't. Okay. I hope this is better now, because when I move away from my computer, then it would have gotten quiet. Okay. Awesome. Okay. So what we also think about when we think about control and range and options is that we know we can access when to have something contracted and when to have something relaxed, when to be moving certain parts and when to isolate certain joints from the others, and when we are moving things as a whole and moving things together. So we're going to start with a few what they call controlled articular rotations. So putting both hands over the shoulders, and we're going to try at this point to keep the lower body completely still. So you're going to go into as much flexion as you feel comfortable to. We're going to slowly rotate over to one side as far as you can. Don't let the pelvis move with you. We're going to dip into lateral flexion on that same side. We're going to go into extension as if you're making a big circle. We're going to dip into lateral flexion on the other side. Go into rotation on that side, keeping the pelvis still, and then slowly go towards the center. You'll notice with these effortful movements, we're going to go to the other side, so rotating first. You'll notice with these effortful movements, you will also start having an increase in your heart rate. You will start to have a more sympathetic dominant state. Lateral flexion on the other side, moving into rotation, and then back to the front. We're just going to do one more on each side. Rotating as far as you can. Think of activating everything on that side. activating everything that brings you into lateral flexion. You can choose how much effort you're doing here, but try and activate everything that you need to. Going into rotation and back, last one to the other side. And notice when you're not breathing, you're kind of pausing your breath. Try and keep the breath going the whole time, but you will notice with movements like this that you tend to breathe a little bit more, a little faster, a little bit labored. And then when you have done a movement like that, you can use kind of shaking movements or any kind of flowing to get you kind of back to that relax, or use the breath to get you there. Okay, so we're going to do for the shoulder. I just put my hand here just for a little bit of stabilization. And then we're going to go into kind of, what do you call it, horizontal adduction, going across your body with the palm up towards the ceiling. And again, you put as much effort into this as you want to. Oh, you can see my arm at the top. We're going to be rotating the arm at the top and then bring it back behind you into extension as far as you can. And then we're going to reverse that direction. So the thumb is going backwards. We're rotating around. You can see nothing else in my body is moving. It's only my shoulder joints. I'm accessing that range of motion in the shoulder joints. Bring it back through the center. And we're going to switch to the other side. You can also control if you have certain aches and pains in your body, rotating. Then you can just adapt this to what you need. Pinky facing forward, thumb facing backwards. We're going to go the other way. And then reaching back. Nothing else is moving. You're accessing that control. And we're just going to be doing that kind of the major joints. And then we're going to hip movements. So bringing that hip up as far as you can. You can also have it in external rotation as you're doing that. As much flexion as you feel capable of without moving your spine, without moving your pelvis. Reaching that leg out to the side. When you can't go anymore, you start to dip the knee down into internal rotation of the hip. Reach that leg behind you into extension. And then back to the front. Squeeze it back into extension. Rotate external. Let it all come from the hip. Squeeze everything. You might feel something cramping. That's okay. Bring it back to the center. Bring as much hip flexion as you can. And back down to the floor. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. Bring it up into flexion as far as possible. Nothing else is moving. Taking it out to the side. This is where we often want to rotate with the pelvis. We're not letting it do that. Then rotating inwards. Internal rotation. Let it go back into extension as far as you can. Squeeze the bum. Bring it back into neutral. And we're going to go the other direction. So squeezing it back into extension. Externally rotating around. High. Into flexion. And back down. Again, using shaking. Extending your exhale. As much as possible, just accessing those different things. So we're going to do what I call like a little bit of body play. So you're essentially going to try and get from standing to all the way to lying down, whether that's on your tummy or your back, and back up in as many different ways as you can. And try sometimes without your hands, try with your hands, try as little assistance with your hands as you can. It's all now about more flowing kind of movements. Now you're not trying to isolate one thing from the other. You're letting things move as much as they need to. And you're almost like letting your body try and find solutions to movement. So just as an example, from standing, I go all the way to sitting, not using my hands, going into lying down, rolling over. Maybe I come up into on one side, bring my hip around and come back up to standing. So there's no rules of like, it needs to look like an exercise, each part of the movement. You just kind of do what feels fun to you. We want to access a little bit more joy, playfulness. Try things that you've never tried before, right? It's like, does it work if I put my hand here? Like, can I get back up? Just try. So don't watch me for this one. You just do your own thing. We're going to do it for about 3 minutes and then we'll carry on with the class. And experiment with not using your hands or using them as little as possible. And experiment with going to different sides. If you tend to always go to one side or the other, you try and access different sides. You can stay on the floor for a while. You can access different movements on the floor. You can let your body just move into directions and movements that it feels like it wants to go, that it feels it hasn't done in a long time. And again, play with that idea of like sometimes your movements are more flowy, sometimes they're kind of moving very free, and you're just playing with that movement. Sometimes you might go faster, sometimes you might go slower. And then other times you're really putting effort into that movement and you're really pushing away, you're really giving resistance. Play with those two states. They're both available to you. So all you're doing is just going from standing, just sitting or lying down, and back up again. In whatever way, shape or form you'd like. Have fun with it. Just play with it. Tripping over kettlebells. Bangs and crashes. Okay. Come back up to sitting or kneeling or whatever feels comfortable. Shake it out. Lower your heart rate, your breathing. If it feels like you got a little bit warm there, I definitely did. Okay. So you can slow down your exhale. And we're going to go into a cat-cow. Okay, so on the hands and knees round about under the hips, hands underneath the shoulders. And we're first just going to start with kind of the usual rounding the whole back, letting the neck and upper back follow. And then slowly going into extension. Think of almost pulling the hands towards you as if they're sliding on the floor, and you're pressing out of the floor as well. So you're not letting this collapse, pressing out of the floor, pulling the hands towards you as if you want to push the chest forward. And then going back into flexion. One of the more natural breathing for this is just inhaling as you extend, as you open up the chest, and then exhaling as you round. And then inhaling as you extend. And then going back into flexion. This time we're going to go back into extension. We're going to stay there. And we're going to go into lateral flexion from this extended position. So we're going to go as if you're trying to take the shoulder and the hip on the one side towards each other, keeping that chest pressing a little bit forward. So we're not looking underneath the arm, we're looking over the shoulder and then to the other side. Again, put as much effort into this as you'd like. But this one is just kind of a warm up for the other cat-cow we're going to be doing. One more to each side. Okay, we're going to come back into full extension. And we're going to do what's called a segmental cat-cow. So we're doing the cat-cow, we're still doing flexion and extension movement, but now we're almost trying to access that segmental movement of the spine. So we're doing one vertebra at a time, in theory, right? You can't exactly access that, but that's what you want to think of mentally as you're doing this. So think of creating a double chin first, and then slowly start to flex your C-spine, middle C-spine, start to flex the upper part of your T-spine, middle. Think of someone like walking their hand down your back onto each vertebra. One thing that can help if you're watching this is to just have you sideways towards the camera so that you can look at me without having to come out of the flexion. And we're going to go the same direction starting with the neck. I mean the opposite direction starting with the neck. Your phone. So slowly starting to extend the chin forward, extending the upper neck, mid neck, lower neck. You do as far as you feel comfortable. Going into the upper back, lower back, this gets harder. And then slowly, one by one, going to extension in the lumbar spine. This time we're going to start with the lumbar spine. So thinking of your lowest part of your lumbar spine starting to go into flexion, and then the next vertebra, and then the next vertebra, going all the way up. So in this case, your neck is the last thing to move. When you're all the way in flexion, we're going to go the other direction, starting with the lower lumbar spine, slowly going into extension, one vertebra at a time. And then extending the neck as the last thing, looking up towards the ceiling as far as feels comfortable for you. Awesome. Taking it out. Okay, so we're going to go into a little bit more kind of Pilates type movements now. We've done a little bit of like a warm up in different ways. Again, with any of these, I'm going to give some variations, and you can also just decide how much effort you want to put into each thing, how hard you want to work at that particular point of the class. So for now, for about the next 20 minutes, we'll do kind of a little Pilates workout. Okay, so we're going to come back to the hands and knees. And there are different types of plank variations here. So you can either just tuck in the toes and hover the knees off the floor. You can go onto your elbows, your forearms, elbows and forearms, or you can go into a full plank on the hands. So you decide which one you want to do. You might have to modify the movements a little bit for that, but we're going to be doing kind of movements of the leg. So we're going to go into a full plank just to demonstrate, keeping the rest of the body absolutely still. We're going to slowly slide one leg and then take it back, and then the other leg and take it back. If you're doing this option, keep going. If you're doing this option, just take one leg back and back in, and then the other leg and back in. Same thing if you're doing here, you're just sliding it less far. You can also slide it outwards if you like. We're going to do the last 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold it in that plank. And press back towards a kind of downward dog kind of movement. And then coming back to the same plank, whichever one you chose. We're going to do the same movement. And 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. Oh gosh, I'm dying. 3, 2, and 1. And push back into downward dog. Hold it there. Think of pressing the chest back towards the knees. Make it kind of an active stretch. We're going to take the right foot forward and find like a little lunge. A lunge. And just first find your balance there. So we really want to be focusing on the foot, particularly the front foot, having pressure in the big toe side, little toe side, and the heel. Think of like a tripod of support with that front foot. The back foot, just those 2 front points. So not to the side or into the middle, but you're accessing that pressure on the big toe side and the little toe side. Just have to calm down my breathing. And we're just going to hold. When in doubt, hold. So you must access the different view. Okay. So we're going to have the hands behind our head. By the way, if this is too much, you just come into this to take a break. We're going to hold that lunge. Okay, we're going to start turning the upper body towards the front leg. So we're doing rotation. So think of keeping that length through the spine as you're rotating and breathing through that. I'm going to do 2 more. Keep the rest of the body absolutely still. 2, 1. We're going to come back to the center. If you need to come out of this lunge, we're going to pulse down towards the floor for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. We're going to hold on the lower point if you can. Hold for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Bring it back towards the front. Wiggle the legs a little bit and shift the other leg back. Find your balance there. Tripod in the front, 2 front points at the back. Access a state of relaxation in the rest of the body. Find that option. We're holding. And we're going to put the hands behind the head. And we're going to twist again to the other side now, again towards the front leg for 6. Slowly back to the center. 5. Relax the shoulders. 4. Try and relax the areas that are not making effort and really create effort in the other areas. 3, I think. Pilates teachers famously do not know how to count. Last one, we're going to come back to the center and we're pulsing down for 8, 7. Come out of this anytime you need to. 6, 5. Relax those shoulders. 4, 3, 2. We're going to hold at the lower point for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. And bring it back to the front. Wiggle the legs. Nicely done, guys. You're doing the class with at this point. Might also be getting a bit warm. Okay, awesome. So the next one we are going to be challenging the balance, but I want you to find what works for you, in the sense that I don't want it to be just a balance exercise. We mainly want it to be working the legs, but it is challenging our stability and our balance to a certain extent. So we're going to be in different positions with the feet, and then we're going to be going up and down. We're going to be bending the legs. So if that feels like to you at any point, whether you start at the start of it or anytime during, you can always just grab something to hold onto, like a pole or something, to do that movement. If you by some chance don't have access to a random pole lying around, you can also go against a wall, not completely leaning, just have your fingertips on the wall like that to do the same movements. Okay, so we're going to start with wide feet, hands on the hips. We're going to slowly, sorry, my feet are just turned out a little bit like this. I'm just going to, yeah, I think this feet might be better for this one. Okay. So we're going to go up onto the balls of the feet. Again, we don't want to be kind of twisting outwards or inwards with the ankles. Think of pressing through the big toe and through the outside of your foot, or like the lateral side of your foot, lateral side of the bottom of your foot. But mostly you're pressing through the big toe. It might feel a little like ballet. 2 more. Next one, we're going to hold it up there. So you want to keep the heels high. The heels are not moving at all. We're going to slowly bend the knees out to the side as well. And think of pressing the floor away from you. Press. And slowly down. Press away. 3, 4, 5. You can either make the bend just a little bit smaller, or just do less repetitions if you're wanting to make this a little less effort. Next one, we're going to hold it at the bottom there. This time, my upper body is not moving at all. So this line is staying still. I'm dropping the heels, I'm lifting them back up. I'm dropping the heels, lifting them back up. Shaking, just like breathing, being labored, is neutral. I'm shaking right now. So if you are, that's also fine. Just notice where you tend to judge yourself. It doesn't mean that something is weak. It doesn't mean anything about you or about me. But you're allowed to be persistent. Next one, we're going to hold the heels up there. Hold if you can, come out of it if you need to. We're going to pulse down for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. This time this part is moving. 2, 1, press all the way up and shake it out. Awesome. The other ones will be a little bit more challenging balance-wise, so feel free to hold on to something if you need to. So we're going to be narrowing the base of support. So this time, feet parallel to each other, hands on the hips. And we're going to go up into the balls of the feet, pressing through the big toe, slowly lower down. And pressing our foot 2, slowly lower down. 5, last 4, 3, almost lost my balance, 2. Next one, we're going to hold the heels high. Okay, no movement in the heels. I'm going to slowly bend the knees, have a little pause at the bottom, and then press the floor away from you. Again, this is where you can access less or more effort. If you just kind of come back up, less effort. If you really think of like, I'm pressing the floor away and it's heavy to press that away, you'll create more effort. 6, 5, relaxing the upper body. 4, notice where you're holding tension where it's not necessary. and you're trying to help. 3, 2 more. Next one, we're going to hold it down there. This line is not moving. I'm going to drop the heels as low as you can, lift it up as high as you can. You might have less range in your ankles and you can't get them all the way down to the floor. That's totally fine. Last 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Next one, we're going to hold the heels up there and we're going to pulse down from the whole body. Heels still staying still for 8, 7, 5, 4, 3, 2. Press up all the way and relax. Shake it out. Whew. Okay. We got one more like that. Okay, cool. So this one is the most ballet-like of them all. Hands on the hips. And for this one, try and think of externally rotating the thighs and squeezing the inner thighs, squeezing the adductors. So you kind of feel like a wrapping feeling around and squeezing on the inside. That already creates effort. So again, your choice. We're going to squeeze the heels together. And this time we're only going to go up as far as the heels can stay together. They're not coming all the way out. We're just going up until that point. It just helps a little bit with keeping stable. And pressing up for 3, 4. Keep that wrapping feeling, keep that effort. Last 4, 3, 2. Next one, we're going to hold it up there. Keep those heels squeezing. We're going to slowly take the knees out to the side and press the floor away. 1. Relax the shoulders, shake out if you need to. Last 6. 5. Press the floor away. 4. 3. 2. Next one, we're going to hold it at the bottom there. Here, this stays still again. We're going to take the heels just slightly away from each other and then back together. 2. Woo, this makes me shake. 3. And 4. Last 4. Relax the shoulders. 3. When I say that, I'm mainly cueing that to myself because I tend to tense my whole upper body as if it's going to help me. Keep the heels squeezing together. Keep that wrapping feeling. We're going to pulse down for the last 8. Make as much effort as you can. 6, 5, last 4, 3, 2, 1. Press all the way up and relax. Awesome. Okay, I'm going to come onto our back. Okay, I'm going to check that you can see me. Yeah, that's good. Okay, so we're going to interlace the hands and put them behind the head. Slowing the breathing down. Focus on your exhale. Extend that exhale. As you exhale this time, think of drawing the ribs a little bit downwards. So we're just kind of closing that a little bit. You might have a little natural, little bit of lordosis under the mat. That's totally fine. We're not trying to press the lower back into the floor. Have that little bit of a gap there. Okay, so we're going to slowly think of bringing the chest towards the knees and think of length. So almost like you're coming up and over as if there's a wave coming up and over and then slowly back down. Try and relax your head into your hands as much as possible. Think of coming up and over. See if you can get to that point that you get a bit of a shake and then come back in. I'm going to do 4 more. access that length. When you come back down, try and keep those ribs drawing down towards the pelvis instead of flaring out. 2. And the next one, we're going to hold it at the top. You can just keep doing that if that feels like where you're at today. Then we're going to slowly twist towards the one side. Think of bringing the rib on the one side over to the torso on the other side. Sorry, over to the pelvis on the other side and back to the center. And twist. Elbows relative to the head are just staying completely still. So we're not bringing the elbow around. We're just moving that whole thing as if it's like a satellite dish. It's one piece. And we're going to do 2 more to each side. Create as much effort as you need. Take breaks when you need. And over. 1 more to each side. Come back down for a second if you need to. Otherwise, stay up there. Okay. We're going to hold this in that same position. We're going to lift one leg up to a tabletop. It's kind of a 90-degree at the hip and at the knee. I'm going to slowly tap that foot down, keeping that angle at the knee the same. So if you had a toothpick behind your knee, you wouldn't be poking yourself even more. And you wouldn't be crushing it and you wouldn't be losing it. Last 4. 3. 2. 1. I'm going to hold it up there. Have the other foot just slightly hovering off the floor, and we're going to switch for 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Pausing there. We're going to twist the upper body towards the leg that's up. Take a break if you need to, and switch for 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Coming back to the center, lowering the other leg down and just tapping the leg that you didn't tap. So that's left. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Next one, holding it up there over the other one, and we're switching for 6, 5, almost there. 4, 3, 2. Next one, holding it up there, taking the upper body towards that side that's up, and then switching the upper body and switching the legs for the last 6, and 5, and 4, 3, 2, 1, and bring the legs in. Just slowly rocking side to side. Slowing down your breathing. You can do the physiological sigh if you want to. Breathing all the way in. Extra little sip of air at the top. And then slowly exhaling. Let's do it 2 more times. Breathing in. Second exit, inhale. And then low, slow, is the word I was looking for, slow, long exhale. And the last one, breathing in, second inhale, and slow exhale. Shake it out if you need to, wiggle your body. We're gonna take the feet a bit wider, take the arms out to the side, and then just let both knees kind of fall over to one side. And you can kind of think of twisting the upper body in the opposite direction, so you get a little bit of a stretch there. You can also put the foot of the other leg on there just to get even more of a little bit of a stretch through that whole side. See what feels comfortable for you. And then switching the legs over to the other side. Breathing into that stretch. Think of lengthening through the whole body. You can put that foot on the other one again, getting a little extra bit of a stretch. Wiggling the shoulders I'm going to come into a kneeling position. Taking one leg forward. You can also do this standing in the same position, but we're just stretching. We're not trying to work more. It's more if you don't feel comfortable, if it's not comfortable to have your knee flat on the ground. And then just think of, I'm just going to do this from the side rather. So think of leaning the pelvis slightly forward. You can think of if you kind of tip into rotation in this direction, you'll feel a bit more of a stretch on that side. Whereas if you have the lower back into extension, then there's less of a stretch. So find the position, how far you have to go forward to just feel a gentle stretch. We're not trying to like press this into a really ridiculous stretch. Just gently stretching here. I'm going to reach that same arm up towards the ceiling. Think of length. So think of your fingertips reaching for the ceiling and the lower body reaching for the floor, so that you really get that opposing stretch. Just going to leave the camera, but stay there. Oh, that. Just going to do this. So when your arm is up there, turn the palm to face the ceiling. So fingers towards the back leg, and then reach up towards the ceiling, almost like you're trying to reach, trying to touch the ceiling. So we're in this position, turn the palm to face the ceiling, and then think of lengthening, and you're going to go into a little bit of lateral flexion away from the side that you're stretching. So you just feel at each of these stages, just getting a little bit more into that stretch. Keep it at what feels comfortable for you. And just breathing here. Slow exhale. Feel free to sink in further if you need to. And we're going to go to the other side. I'm just going to switch this way. No? Something is not right. Okay. So trying to find that stretch, you can, by the way, tuck this back toe, the back toes in, or just have it flat on the floor. But anyway, you're just trying to find a stretch in that back hip. Staying there for a few seconds. And then reaching the fingertips up towards the ceiling. Think of length in both directions. Length towards the ceiling, length towards the ground. And we're going to laterally flex a little bit away from the side that's stretching. You turn the palm up to face the ceiling. Fingertips are also pointing away from the side of the stretch, and you're trying to press that hand into the ceiling. Just go to where it feels comfortable for you, holding that stretch. And come back down. Awesome. We're just going to end off the class with a few what we call like roll downs in Pilates. So first, I just want to start with a bit of grounding. This is also something that you can access when you're feeling a little bit more in that kind of like anxious, flighty kind of state. Think of literally grounding yourself, right? Like think of, what does firmness feel like in my body? What is groundedness? What is feeling secure and sure of myself? What would that feel like in my body, right? It might be accessing that feeling of being tall. It might be pressing the feet into the ground, kind of having that secure groundedness into the floor. Let's see. I'm gonna let you be able to see my toes. So you might be able to access these movements, you might not. We're just going to do what they call toe yoga. But try and again find that tripod of support. So underneath the base of the big toe, base of the fifth toe, and then on the heel. So you're finding that groundedness, that secure feeling. And see if you can lift just the big toe. Other toes stay on the floor and back down. If you can't access this, don't worry, just practice it. So this is part of that idea. Like, we want to be able to isolate things from each other. We want to be able to contract things when we want to and relax other things when we need to. And also, just for the health of our joints, we want to be able to access ranges of motion in every joint. We don't just want our whole foot to be one foot. Okay, then see if you can keep the big toe planted and lift all the other toes without having your ankles go inwards or outwards. You're still accessing the 2 points of the tripod, but now all the other toes are lifting. Try it out, even if it feels like they're just not doing it. This will get easier. Okay, then we're going to lift all the toes off the floor, spread them as wide as you can, and then place them down in that wide spread out way. So lifting them up, spread them out as wide as you can, and then place them down on the floor. Seeing what you can do, what your body doesn't quite seem to be able to do. Also notice what other parts of your body you're trying to use to do the movement if it's hard for you. I'm going to do the last 3. Spread the toes, place them down in that spread out way. Strong feet. And then the last movement we're going to do with the feet is almost like you're trying to shorten the arch of your foot. So you're not flexing the toes are staying completely still. You can even lift them up if you feel like you have the tendency to do that, but you're trying to shorten that space. So you're trying to drag the front of your foot towards the back of your foot. I'm going to do that with both feet, dragging that in. Almost feel like you're trying to shorten your whole foot. Again, toes are not kind of gripping onto the floor. If you need to lift them up, go for it, because you should be able to do this exercise without that. When I say should be able to, I just mean like this is not, the point of it is not to flex the toes. All the movement is coming from the foot itself. 3, 2. Last one, shake out the feet, little ankle circles. Awesome. Just going to change that angle again. Okay, we're going to do the roll downs. We're going to lift the arms up towards the ceiling. Think of lifting the chest up towards the sky. Slowly let your arms float down towards the floor. We're going to drop your chin to your chest. I'm going to slowly start rolling down, kind of like we did the segmental cat-cow. Think of like one vertebra, then the next vertebra, then the next vertebra. You can bend your knees as much as you'd like to, or keep them straight, and just kind of hang out at the bottom. Just think of kind of like bobbing up and down. You can have the arms going in circles. You can slowly shake the head from side to side. Ooh, earphone fell out. Might happen at the bottom of these. We're going to slowly start rolling back up. So think of that lumbar spine, then the upper lumbar spine, lower T-spine, upper T-spine, and the neck, reaching the arms up towards the ceiling. Deep breath in, reach the chest towards the sky. Let the arms float down. One more. Chin to chest. Slowly rolling down towards the floor. Keep that tripod of support on your feet, under your feet. Hang out at the bottom, whatever feels good here. You can also hold onto the elbows or onto the shoulders and just kind of swing and forth. Slowing down your exhale. Let your arms hang, breathing in. And as you slowly exhale, we're going to slowly curl all the way back up. Reaching the arms up towards the ceiling. Take a deep breath in, reach the chest up towards the sky. And this time we're not going to roll down, we're just going to slowly let the arms float as lightly as they can back down to your side. Awesome. Guys, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed that, and let me know how it went, how you're feeling. Yeah, I definitely got warm and shaky and out of breath and all of the things. So thank you for joining me, and I will see you guys soon. Cheers.